All right, so I've got the Anderson easel, and I'm gonna be painting on a 14 by 28 inch panel, and I've got my usual palette of colors. No guest colors today, although maybe if I like peel the top off of this cobalt teal, there'll be some underneath. I'm using Liquid Original as my medium, and I'll most likely use this number 10 Natural Bristle Flat. All right, as usual, I'm gonna tone with burnt sienna. I kind of like a light tone. And you'd be amazed, like even when the tone is really light, it still shows through quite well in the finished painting. And I don't usually cover the whole panel with the brush. I'll just scrub on enough that I can spread around with a paper towel. There's not that much going on in the sky, so high horizon down here, just some sort of random pattern for the where the water meets the sand. And I always try to like work quickly and spontaneously and then see if anything emerges. Let's see here, there's some little whitewater patterns. So I've got too much light on my panel here, so I'm gonna put this tube that I have for protecting my brushes, you know, and that'll change the angle so that I get shade on my panel. I don't mind having light on my palette, but having it on the panel when I'm laying in colors, it's really hard to determine values. All right, let's check in with ARIAH here. All right, so you got your sketch here, and then, so you're thinking the main wave right there?
Main wave right here, hopefully not too prominent, and then getting some of the whitewater patterns leading to the unbroken or partially breaking wave.
It looks like you do kind of what I do, is like sketch out some random shapes or whatever, and then sort of look within that for a pleasing arrangement.
Exactly, that's exactly what I do. I always feel like random strokes will bring together a better pattern than I could come up with, you know, by thinking about it.
Exactly, especially with something like the ocean, where it's like it should feel like random and spontaneous and not careful. Yeah. All right, so there is the basic composition. I'm leaving an unbroken portion right here. Kind of using rule of thirds here. This, you know, this top third here is the main wave. I like these diagonal little waves that are running across, and sometimes there's like bits of yellow and green in those waves. So I'm probably gonna just have wet sand in the foreground. So that's the starting point. Now I'm just gonna mix up a color for the water and start scrubbing it in. For the water, I'm using titanium white, ultramarine blue, bit of burnt sienna, and I've added a bit of phthalo blue as well, because the watercolor down here is a little bit different than up north. Definitely some more phthalo in there. I'm gonna work quickly and keep the paint thin. And this value is a little bit darker than the actual water, but that's okay because I'm gonna come over the top of it with sky reflection, so a lighter gray blue. So just like with the sketch, I try to, you know, scrub in quickly and then, you know, stand back and try to find an interesting pattern or look for little bits of magic that are going on and kind of build on those. So adding a bit of titanium white and yellow ochre. The area in front of the main wave here is a little bit lighter and greener. There's going to be some white water in the foreground here. So I'm going to start by putting some of the shadows that are under the leading edge of the white water. Just to kind of indicate where those are. This might be one of those little diagonal ripples that's coming across. And the same with here. And there's little bits of broken wave as well. And I know I've said this before, but this kind of painting it's like really an enjoyable way to paint, just because there's so much freedom and spontaneity in it. I don't want too much going on right here. All right, maybe I'll break that up a little. There was just a little too much energy going on right here. Okay, that's better. All right, so now I'm adding more titanium white, some dioxazine purple. All right, that might be a little saturated, but actually I'm gonna go with it because again, I'm gonna be putting some sky reflections over this. And so to have some of that saturated purple coming through would not be necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of nice to shift up the direction of the strokes. I always look for energy in the shallow water that's coming close to shore. And I'm gonna try to leave a lot of this scrub in the final painting. It's strange, I find the relationship between purple and green is, you know, it's actually more of a blue-green, but there's something very pleasing about that color relationship. Okay. All right, for the sky, I'm using ultramarine blue, some yellow ochre, and titanium white. And I want to make sure that the value of the sky is just a little bit darker than the white water. In fact, I might artificially darken it just so that the white water stands out more and that the glare on the waves stands out more. And I don't want to cover all of the orange of the tone and the sketch. I want to leave some of that in there. All right, so next I'm going to mix up a color for the unbroken wave. All right.
Guess color.
Guess color. Lemon yellow?
Yeah, Michael Harding, lemon yellow.
And I'm going to use a touch of the lemon yellow guess color, mixing that into my other mixture. It's kind of a mid-tone value, which I think will be fine.
No,
dude, that's already looking, no, it's already looking good, like right in here, these colors. Like I noticed that same thing, having those light purpley colors close up and then the darker wave in the distance. So,
thanks. I feel like I'm on shaky ground, but we'll see.
All right, so at this point, I'm just gonna step back like 10 feet, look at it, and like I said, look for patterns that I feel are appealing and then build from there. I like the whitewater shapes, that's cool. I actually kind of like this whitewater shape here. I do feel like this line needs to be eliminated. And I'm just kind of spreading around some of this blue color with the paper towel as well. Yeah, the light has changed completely. That's all right. Like, I think it's going to be stable from here on out, though.
Yeah.
All right, I'm feeling like I need some more blue near the horizon, like a more saturated blue. So I've just mixed a bit of ultramarine and phthalo blue into the mix. The light is changing pretty dramatically, but I'm just going to roll with it. I mean, obviously now it's like completely sunny out. The water just behind the waves is a little bit lighter in value. So I'll add a bit of titanium white, and I might start experimenting with, you know, more defined strokes and not as much scrubby type strokes, but I'm not sure. Like oftentimes I just keep experimenting with different types of paint application until it looks right. The nice thing about that is that it kind of prevents you from becoming formulaic. Now in this area, I'm getting some lighter reflections, so a little more titanium white, and having those bits of sky reflection over the darker water, I think really adds to the sort of translucent effect of the water, or the fact that there's, you know, reflections on the surface, and that there's some depth to it. Back up and see how it's reading. All right, so I'm thinking I need to go a little bit darker on the purple water in the foreground here. As you can see, you know, that purple is definitely darker than the white water. Like if I put white water on here, it's not gonna stand out. I like the energy in the strokes here, so I'm gonna be careful not to like eliminate all of that. All right, so is that the right color though? All right, I'm holding it up. I don't know, I think it needs to be, that's way too much red in there. I'm just gonna add a little bit of phthalo blue. That looks more like it. So adding that phthalo is really helpful. And I'll just kind of try to mimic the energy I saw, or just capture or create some new energy, right? There is an area in here that seems to be a little bit lighter, kind of more reflected sky. There's going to be reflections along here too. You know, the white water gets reflected. I usually go vertical strokes for my reflections, even when I'm doing whitewater reflections, and then come across with some sideways strokes. All right, I think I need to lay in some of that whitewater now. So to try to judge the color of the whitewater, I'm mixing titanium white with a touch of phthalo blue. What I'm going to do is hold it up next to the whitewater and see how it compares. All right, and I'm going to try to apply this quickly, also with energy, random strokes, and still keeping it kind of thin. I used to always paint the top of my waves like really flat and straight across, and that's just not reality if you look out there. And I'm feeling like maybe just a little hint over here, and just being careful not to completely cover all of the orange. Sometimes I'll do that and then there's no life left in the painting. It's amazing how much that undertone really makes a difference. All right, so Ariah's getting some beautiful patterns there. It's great that there's like the diagonals, because I mean, if you really look out there, it is a lot of horizontals, but occasionally you'll get a diagonal come through, and so you've captured that, and I think that's, you know, a really important thing when you're painting stuff that's mostly horizontal.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, at a glance it just looks like everything's horizontal, but at closer look, they're kind of angling away from each other.
All right, so we're gonna kind of work into some of these shapes that I've already got here. You know, because like I said, I was looking for, you know, those random little accidents or patterns that happen, and then sort of building into that. And so I don't want to paint over those. All right, so I'm going to try to put some of the whitewater patterns on the surface and loading the brush. And I think I'm going to try to mimic some of the patterns like this. Again, looking for things I already see in the, you know, just little suggestions that I might see in the painting already. We'll see how that works. And these little bits of whitewater on the flat surface are not as bright in value as the ones that are up on the face of the wave. Yeah, it looks good. There's so much texture. Actually, all that thick paint is catching the light. It's all sparkling and everything. So when you're putting on paint like that, are you using a palette knife or are you using a brush?
That one you identified was a palette knife, like a quick palette knife stroke. I just wanted like a little bright spot there. When
you hit it with a palette knife, do you also hit it with a brush too after, or just like leave the palette stroke?
I try to leave the palette stroke, but if it's something's bothering me, then I'll take a brush and go through it and try to smooth it out.
All right, so here's what I finished up with. I do think that it's all right that I didn't have sand in the foreground, so to speak. I kind of like that it's like, you know, still water right there. As usual, tried to keep, you know, the waves very irregular and loose. And so there it is. So Ariah and I got to the beach at 9 o'clock and I left at 4. I'm exhausted. I'm gonna get a shower. But anyway, I will link Ariah's information in the description below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. And oh, if you'd like to see some extra videos and help support the channel, there's a Patreon link down below. So other than that, stay creative and I'll see you guys in the next video. It's got like 20 pounds of Gorilla Glue in it. Dude, you're about to get initiated with the wave storm, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling, you know, it's a big responsibility.
I know, man. That's a big hunk of foam.